very much, Chief Judge Stacy and Young. All right, let's get ready. Good morning, team and judges, and welcome to the 8th match of the 2021 National Tourism Debate online via Zoom and streaming live on YouTube. We would like to thank our team this morning, our production team, in digitizing our competition, and this could not be possible without the kind sponsorship of the following sponsors: Tourism Enhancement Fund in the Ministry of Tourism, Camco Hotel and Restaurant Supplies, Deja All-Inclusive Resort, ProSight Optical, Tony Ward Auto, Royalton, Luxury Resorts, the Jamaica Observer, Ad Intelligent Limited, and Chukka Caribbean. The 2021 National Tourism Debate is endorsed by the Ministry of Education, the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, the JHTA, and CGM Gallagher. Our judges this morning, Chief Judge Attorney at Law, Stacy Ann Young, our first VP in the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, Oral Heaven, who is the guest judge this morning, and Clinton Pickering, freelance journalist. Our moot for this morning: all-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. Proposing the moot is Belair High, and opposing the moot is Kingston College. Our speakers are Belair High, Shanice first speaker, Saoirse Salmon, second speaker, and Janoya Haynes, third speaker. From Kingston College, Malachi Alwood, second speaker, Michael Wellington, and third speaker, Sawande Brown. I hope I got that correct. The first speaker is allowed 7 minutes, second speaker 5 minutes, and third speaker 3 minutes, followed by our rebuttal, which will begin with the opposing team. The match will begin with our proposing team, Belair High. We will now proceed with our 8th match, Belair High versus Kingston College. Can we spotlight our first speaker, please, from Belair High?
Okay, are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
May I begin?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Panel of adjudicators, opponents, esteemed audience, a pleasant morning to you all. I stand as the first speaker to propose the moot: all-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. Before I proceed, I ask, is there a direct relation between quarantining of guests in all-inclusive hotels to a reduction in the number of COVID transmission to islanders or other visitors? As first speaker, I will outline the fact that it is a government's responsibility to enact laws and policies to protect citizens and not pass on this responsibility to private companies. I will also outline alternatives to quarantining guests. My second speaker will talk about the protocols and policies that are in place to ensure guests who enter the country are COVID-free or at a minimum risk of passing on the virus. My third speaker will summarize our arguments and establish what exists in other countries as it relates to how all-inclusive hotels treat visitors during the pandemic. Before I get into my substantive, it is important for me to define the key terms of the moot. According to Expedia.com, all-inclusive hotels are large properties that provide a wide variety, amenities, and facilities which allow guests to enjoy their stay at no extra cost, all available conveniently within the resort. Mandate, according to dictionary.com, means an official command, injunction, or order for one to perform a task or do something. Tourism Review News states that to be quarantined means to be confined to your room with no mixing of guests between, allowed for a 7 to 14 days period. According to Eurostat, guest means a person who arrives at or leaves a collective accommodation establishment or private tourism accommodation and checks in or out. The motion can be restated as: It is not advised to force all-inclusive hotels to have their visitors, tourists traveling from other countries, stay in their rooms for a period of 7 to 14 days before they can start enjoying their hotel stay. Anna M. Lopez, a researcher in travel history, shared on Statista.com on November 3rd, 2021 that, and I quote, in 2020, the average intended length of a stay in international visitors in Jamaica stood at 9.4 nights, the highest figure since 2010. In the previous year, the average trip length of foreigners in the Caribbean country was less than 8 nights, end quote. Judges, a 7 to 14 days quarantine is a direct contrast to a guest who wishes to visit an all-inclusive hotel in Jamaica, as this would mean vacationing in quarantine style. Let us focus on the word mandate. When something is mandated, it means there is no way to go around it. You are bound to do it. It must be upheld. All-inclusive hotels are private companies which are regulated by the government. Therefore, a government needs to set public policy to regulate tourists coming into the country rather than impose mandates on private organizations. Before a tourist gets to an all-inclusive hotel, they must get through one of the 3 airports in Jamaica. They need to present documentation to state their vaccination status, negative PCR tests, among so many other documents to prove that they are COVID-free. My second speaker will speak to these protocols and measures in more detail. But my point here is that it is counterproductive to require all-inclusive hotels to quarantine guests when the government is doing so much to ensure that the country is indeed COVID-free. All-inclusive hotels are perfectly capable of creating their own policies that do not directly conflict with the public policies set by the government. Mandating is saying, this is how we want you to run your day-to-day operation, and anything else you do is not up to par. Give the all-inclusive hotels more credit, opponents. Give them more credit. Let me share with you how all-inclusive hotels can indeed operate without having a backroom master mandate over their heads. There's a difference between a hotel and an all-inclusive hotel. The mood did say all-inclusive hotels. All-inclusive suggests that a wide variety of resources and entertainment is on the same property. Guests do not need to leave the property in order to have a holistic vacation. When it comes to entertainment, hotels can and are making use of their large properties. More than 50% of all-inclusive hotels have more than 10 acres of property for themselves. The guests can have smaller gatherings for show and concerts with the number of gatherings as stipulated by the government. Judges, another alternative to quarantine is to also schedule meal times based on blocks or room numbers. Mealtime can also be extended. Not only can mealtime be extended, but guests should be given the opportunity to take their meals back to their rooms. Additionally, custodians will be assigned at all times to the dining areas, bathroom, and pool area to ensure sanitization is done at designated times and management of protocols are upheld. Many of our guests come for the sun and the beach. Since 80% of all-inclusive hotels have private beaches, then they are limited to the property on the beach. Therefore, they will not have to mix with persons on the outside. Beach time will also be scheduled and custodians will be present to sanitize beach chairs and high-touch areas. Judges, we believe that trying to control the possible likelihood of a virus through limited interaction, contact, and practicing the necessary protocol is a better alternative for the country and all-inclusive hotels than mandatory quarantining of guests. The proposition pauses.
And thank you very much, Belair. Hi. May we spotlight Kingston College? Okay, Kingston College, Malachi Alwood, you may go ahead.
Madam Speaker, adjudicators, members of the opposition, and other members of the audience, pleasant morning. The move presented before the House by the government simply states all inclusive hotels should not be migrated to quarantine, which I believe is disingenuous as it infringes on the basic human rights of Jamaicans, their dignity, and the call to urgency, and makes the world fight against a common threat to coronavirus pandemic. After listening to the myriad of substantive arguments presented by my team, we will not only agree but dismiss the misinformed decision made by the government and ministers. Ladies and gentlemen, but this discourse will be properly explored. This House will need to define what terms play a key role. According to the Middle Dictionary, all-inclusive is defined as a resort that charges one fee and includes the price of a room, meals, beverages, and all other expenses. Mandate as defined by the Oxford English Dictionary is the authority to do something given to a government or other organization by the people who vote for it in an election. According to the Merriam-Webster's Dictionary, quarantine is the situation of being kept away from others to prevent a disease from spreading. Finally, a guest is defined as a person who pays for the services of an establishment. The opposition wishes to define the route. Resorts should provide accommodation, entertainment, and foods of choice while protecting guests and Jamaicans. The deputy opposition leader will give a detailed insight on the effects of not mandating the quarantine of guests. Opposition government member will further explore the government's inability to consider the rights of Jamaicans and solidify our stance on this definitive topic. Madam Speaker, according to the World Health since the dawn of the novel coronavirus pandemic, a total of 262,844,830 cases have been confirmed. Approximately 5,230,460 deaths worldwide.
All right, coaches, we're gonna have to stop. We're gonna have to stop. The judges are saying that the echo is really very badly and it needs to be, there needs to be some, I don't know, I'm not sure how you can fix this, coaches, but the echo is interrupting his presentation. All right. I'm not quite sure if you can move closer, turn the speaker mic off, and use the instrument that the coach has.
Turn off that mic.
Can we have a sound check from you, Malachi? Malachi, are you hearing me, Mr. Alwood?
Your mic is muted.
My mic is muted?
No, Casey's mic is muted.
Okay, Casey's, okay. Thank you for that. All right, Mr. Alwood, let's have some sound check. Ladies and gentlemen, we can understand that these things happen from time to time. It has happened during the course of the competition. So let's just bear with them. Mr. Alwood, can you just check your mic again? Is he hearing?
Your mic is muted. Yes, we're hearing you now, but there's still an echo.
All right, go again.
Or start over.
Yes, you would have to start over.
May I begin?
Yes, go ahead.
Madam Speaker, adjudicators, members of the opposition, and other members of the audience, a pleasant morning. The move presented before the House by the government simply states all-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests, which I believe is disingenuous as it infringes on the basic human rights of Jamaicans, their dignity and the call to urgency amidst the world fight against the coronavirus pandemic. After listening to the myriad of substantiated arguments presented by my team, you will not only agree, but dismiss the misinformed decision made by the government and their stance. Ladies and gentlemen, for this discourse to be properly explored, for this House believes the defining of terms play a key role. According to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, all-inclusive is defined as a resort that charges one fee that includes the price of a room, meals, beverages, and all other expenses. Mandate, as defined by the Oxford English Dictionary, is the authority to do something given to a government or other organization by the people who vote for it in an election. According to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, quarantine is a situation of being kept away from others to prevent a disease from spreading. Finally, a guest is defined as a person who pays for the services of an establishment. The opposition wishes to redefine the word. Resorts should provide accommodation, entertainment, and foods of choice while protecting guests and Jamaicans. The deputy opposition leader will give a detailed insight on the effects of not mandating the quarantining of guests. The opposition government member will further explore the government's inability to consider the rights of Jamaicans and solidify our stance on this definitive topic. Madam Speaker, according to the Worldometer, since the dawn of the novel coronavirus pandemic, a total of 262,844,813 cases have been confirmed. Approximately 5,230,460 deaths worldwide, seizing the progress of most of the world's tourism and economical industry. May I remind you, the government was elected to represent our people, which also mandates them to uphold the rights and shape responsible policies. By April 2nd, the pandemic has struck over 1 million people in 171 countries across 6 continents, killing 61,000. Excerpt from the New York Times Magazine, published on March 17, 2021. To the government, this may just be mere statistics. However, to others, these are lives, humans with hopes and aspirations, but unfortunate to a fate as tragic as death. The novel coronavirus is a serious threat to all. It is not just an Eastern problem, nor is it just a Western problem, but a serious global concern. It was on March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization signaled that the coronavirus was officially a pandemic after barreling into 114 countries in 3 months, infecting over 180,000 people. After observing the occurrences of each respective era, the world took note of the effectiveness of quarantines. For example, the SARS virus was contained and hasn't reappeared since 2003. Members of this honorable House do not underestimate the effectiveness of quarantines. Madam Speaker, the opposition believes in following the recommendations of the many health professionals in Jamaica as well as WHO, and recommend that not only should guests be quarantined, but for a period of 14 days if unvaccinated and 8 if they are, not 7, Madam Prime Minister. The World Health Organization recommends provisions of physical comfort, including adequate ventilation, hygienic facilities, social distance of at least 1 meter between all persons quarantined, provision of food and water, access to internet, news, entertainment, if possible, and psychosocial support be made available. Vaccines, as expressed by the government, play a very integral role. Therefore, we are not discrediting its importance, but what we, the opposition, is proposing. Please note, quarantine is different from isolation. Quarantine, as defined by WHO, aims to delay the introduction of the disease to a country or area, or may delay the peak of an epidemic in an area where local transmission is ongoing or both. Madam Speaker, let's pay more attention to the large infrastructural inadequacies existing in Jamaica in response to the COVID-19. I'll go further. The Jamaican population consists of approximately 2.9 million people. Although disheartening to hear, it was no surprise when news sources echoed hospitals, healthcare centers are unable to accommodate the many COVID-19 patients because of inadequate resources. Madam Speaker, according to an article published in the Jamaican Bean on August 21st, 2021, it would not be the first time the government has failed to prioritize our frontline workers. It was President Henry of the Nurses Association of Jamaica and several healthcare workers who pointed out, and I quote,
Let's go back to the top. Let me see your name.
themselves
Let me see your name now.
waiting rooms, hoping that there are available hospital beds, ventilators if they get too ill to breathe on their own. On top of that, frontline workers are overworked as the demand for their labor increases steadily. We all can agree, healthcare systems are failing. Madam Speaker, this conversation stems from a more pernicious problem, which is the constant dissemination of false
information,
vaccines as measured to actual realities. Simply put,
point of information.
Members of this honorable house, hear me well. The vaccines do not prevent the spread, but alleviate the severity. Counting the number of variants and the heightened uncertainty arising from newly suspected Omicron, why not pull the support of—
Point of information.
Wait a moment. Is the government more concerned with profits rather than protecting the rights of its citizens? May I submit to you, sometimes prevention is the only cure. Finally, according to the WHO, countries experiencing larger outbreaks of the virus are expected to implement all of society's resources. We, the opposition, are choosing to make a collective effort in ensuring accommodation and protection of all. According to an article written in Jamaica Information Service on August 10, it was the Minister of Health who pointed out bed occupancy. 8 facilities are over 84% of their current bed capacity in hospitals across the island. We are proposing all inclusivity, observing the Charter of Fundamental Rights and permitting an individual to free will choice among others. Your question? To decide against my mandate, the inclusion of our hotels, neglecting the urgency and seriousness of the pandemic, failing to protect and prioritize the lives of our citizens, is to wind up in the shoes of our present government and their stance. I rest my case.
A heated match indeed. An exciting one to the 8th match and final match in our preliminary round of the 2021 National Tourism Debate. We will give our judges some time to tally their scores, and then we will return with our second speaker from Belair High, Saoirse Salmon. Saoirse, just give me a second. Let me just wait on our chief judge to give us the go ahead.
Okay.
Chief Judge, are you ready?
Just a minute, Shell, 1 minute.
Okay then. Let me use the opportunity to welcome our participants via Zoom and also our friends that may be online on YouTube, the National Tourism Debate.
Go ahead, Michelle.
All right, Saoirse, you may begin.
The statistic of the first speaker on the spread of COVID-19 virus in Jamaica is based off of a general viewpoint, not solely the that all-inclusive hotels are not mandated. Judges, opponents, audience, good morning to you all. I stand as second speaker of the proposing team to affirm the move. All-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. I will continue our affirmation of the move by establishing the protocols and measures put in place by the government, which makes this background measure not necessary. Judges, it is common knowledge that the Jamaican government has an obligation to protect its citizens, and in turn, private sectors will implement their policies which will not conflict on the policies of the government. Let me take you all on the policies that make mandatory quarantine of guests a backward step in handling the pandemic. According to Taxista.com, all-inclusive hotels in Jamaica in 2020 accommodating nearly 60% of international overnight visitors. Why am I saying this? Oppositions. When you consider protection, do you only look at short term? If hotels are not able to provide the kind of facilities, can you imagine the massive financial blow to the country? Let us look at the measures at this time. According to International Travelers website, an article titled Jamaica Travel Restriction Fall and Winter 2021, What Travelers Need to Know by Mitchell C. on November 2021, travelers from all countries 12 years and above are now required to provide a negative COVID-19 PCR or antigen test result from an accredited medical lab taken within 3 days of arrival date in order to check into a flight to Jamaica. To manage risk, tourists are limited to a resilient corridor along the north coast, including Negril, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Portland, and a second resilient corridor is from Milk River to Negril on the south coast. Foreign travelers staying within resilient corridors are not required to quarantine, provided they remain in the resilient corridors. However, they are tested upon arrival. They must stay in their hotel rooms while awaiting the result of the test. Jamaica travel restriction currently prohibits tourists from traveling outside of approved hotel, resorts, and resilient licensed attraction. The Jamaica Information Service, written by Garwin Davis, titled Tourism Resilient Corridors Very Safe for Visitors, informed that the Ministry of Tourism mandated the creation of tourism resilient corridors. In these corridors, tourism business must be certified by the Tourism Production Development Company, TPD Co., for having implemented to the letter all the COVID-19 prevention protocols, which internal system enhance the government surveillance and enforcement to ensure compliance. Additionally, by way of government measures, visitors are not allowed to use public transportation. Public gatherings are limited to 10 people. Events hosted by public entities are allowed up to 100 people. However, all attendees must be fully vaccinated. Persons over 60 years of age and individuals fully vaccinated are urged to stay home. Starting November 18, fully vaccinated travelers staying outside resilient corridors who present a negative PCR test taken within 3 days of departure to Jamaica will not be required to quarantine on arrival. All travelers will be screened and assessed upon arrival in Jamaica. Anyone who is deemed high risk, means showing symptoms of COVID-19 or having traveled through or from countries with high risk community transmission of COVID-19 may be required to undergo a COVID-19 test and, if necessary, quarantine. Judges, what we see here is the government implementing strict public policies and measures limiting transmission through pre-travel testing and enforcement of resilient corridors. The proposition stands resolute. No to mandatory quarantine, but yes to a sustainable way of the country must go on, but still protect its citizens during this pandemic. I repeat, the country must go on, and mandatory quarantine of persons is not a sustainable way forward. As we examine the worthwhileness of guests being quarantined, we will think about the persons who are asymptomatic. If a guest is quarantined and come out of quarantine with no symptom, but is carrying, don't we give them a false sense of hope? As proposers this morning, we believe that quarantining guests is a cheap way out to try and control the spread of COVID-19 in Jamaica. Let the structure, strict measures, proper policies, and protocols put in place from entry and departure, and forget about mandatory quarantine. Let the hotel work their system as they see it necessary. We believe that this will help the country and all-inclusive hotels in a more significant way. The proposition passes.
Thank you, Ms. Salmon. Can we spotlight our second speaker, Kingston College, Michael Wellington? I will wait on the cue from the Chief Judge.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Wellington.
Only takes one match to start a fire, as it only took one resident a full day to start this crisis in Jamaica. Adjudicators, distinguished guests.
Not hearing him clearly.
We're not hearing you, Mr. Wellington. Please speak up.
Should I begin? It only takes one match to start a fire, as it only took one resident a full day to start this crisis in Jamaica. Adjudicators, distinguished guests, fellow opposition members, members of the government, and other persons here with us today. Good morning. Today, I am here firmly opposing a move which supports injustice and inequality among people. A move which allows for a blatant disregard and non-adherence to Jamaican laws. And the move which it prevails threatens the lives of persons living in that area and the health care system. All-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. As a deputy opposition leader, I will discuss the effects of this move. According to our release on the 11th of October 2021 by the Jamaica Department of Foreign Affairs, whether or not you are tested and whether or not you have the virus, you have to quarantine for 14 days, 8 days if you are fully vaccinated. When we look at the reason for a quarantine, it is for keeping persons from others so as to prevent the spreading of a disease. Now, with a virus so serious that you require the quarantine of fully vaccinated guests, why would we not quarantine these guests of all-inclusive hotels? Another issue that arises from this.
I'm so very sorry to interrupt you. I think I'm not the only one having the issue. It's low and it comes up and then it fades away again, and it really does take away from what I'm sure is a very good presentation. So if we can find a way to keep the audio consistent, it would really assist us. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to ask him to start again because he was interrupted before. And we just want to get a good audio feed so that we can do a good job of doing what we have to do.
Is it possible to get the camera closer to him or the microphone closer to him?
Or can you hear me?
Yes, that's much better. Go ahead. Let's, Chief Judge, are you hearing?
Yes, Michelle, that is so much better. Thank you very much. And we're actually seeing, we actually have a better angle, so that is good. Thanks.
Please begin from the beginning.
All right. It only takes one match to start a fire, as it only took one resident a full day to start this crisis in Jamaica. Adjudicators, distinguished guests, fellow opposition members, members of the government, and other persons here with us today. Good morning. Today, I am here firmly opposing a move which supports injustice and inequality among people. A move which allows for a blatant disregard and non-adherence to Jamaican law. And the move which it prevails threatens the lives of persons living in that area and the healthcare system. All-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. As the deputy opposition leader, I will discuss the effects of this move. According to our release on the 11th of October 2021 by the Jamaica Department of Foreign Affairs, whether or not you are tested and whether or not you have the virus, you have to quarantine for 14 days, 8 days if you are fully vaccinated. When we look at the reason for a quarantine, it is for keeping persons from others so as to prevent the spreading of a disease. Now, with a virus so serious that it required the quarantining of fully vaccinated guests, why would we not quarantine these guests of all-inclusive hotels? Another issue that arises from this move is equality among people. According to two cases published by the Gleaner on the 7th of May and the 27th of September 2021, dancehall entertainer Moses Davis, better known as Beanie Man, and the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Minister Floyd Green, both experienced the punishment of the law for breaking the Disaster Risk Management Act, which was implemented to help us better manage this pandemic and slow the spread. Again, the act was implemented to help us better manage this pandemic and slow the spread. Although they were involved in activities that helped the economy, they were still charged. Now, when we again look at what the move presents, it is enabling tourists to bypass the laws that should be helping us with the virus, thus allowing them to easily pass the virus to the society.
Point of information. Point of information.
No. When we look at who the primary victims will be, these are the hotel workers and other workers in the tourism industry, who will later run the public health system for treatment, thus reducing our national health resources and weaken our defense against COVID-19. Let me take you back to the match of this crisis in Jamaica, as I described earlier. On the 4th of March 2020, the first COVID-19 case was recorded in Jamaica. The female carrier of the virus did not quarantine. Let me repeat, she did not quarantine, and that led to the start of this crisis in Jamaica. What did they do? What did the government do after? What did they do after? They quarantined an entire community. Even though it had negative effects, it was the only viable option that the government took. Ladies and gentlemen, as a businessman makes this by evaluating past results, let us look at this move through the eyes of a businessman. We all see the terrible effects of not quarantining in the past. With the deadlier strands of the virus out now, why would we resort to this irresponsible policy? Mr. and Madam Speaker, Chapter 5 of the Constitution has charged this House with the task of making laws which are aligned with the course of peace, order, and good governance. It is in the opposition's view that with such a policy stance, the government has seemingly aligned itself with. It is a slap in the face to those fundamental principles and by extension, the Jamaican people. Point of information.
Do you have the statistics to support that unquarantined guests contribute to the increase in COVID cases in Jamaica?
Can't hear it.
Do you have the statistics to support that unquarantined guests contribute to increasing COVID cases in Jamaica?
Yes, we do.
Where is that statistic?
Can we hear that statistic, sir?
Please speak a little louder. Third speaker will speak on this. Speech.
All right, I take it that our second speaker, Mr. Wellington, is finished. We will now move.
Before we proceed, Michelle, I would have stated, well, I can see the camera on now, but I would have asked for the camera to remain on because it is important that we can see what is happening. I know that we're having audio issues, but we really need to be able to see our competitors. We're not all in the same room. We are not, we're not in the control environment. So please, we need to be able to have a window into what is happening in the room so that we can properly adjudicate the match. And while the presenters are speaking, please mute the mics.
Okay. for yesterday, what we did was when we kept the cameras on, but we turned the camera to the students so we could see what was happening. I'm not quite sure what the setup is like in the areas that you are, but we have to be able to keep visual, as well as when you're doing and preparing your rebuttals. We're going to ask that the camera is placed on all three speakers and that the coach is away from the table and area. That goes for both schools, Belair High and Kingston College. All right, thank you for that, Chief Judge. Let us welcome Janoya Haynes from Belair High, third speaker. You can go ahead.
Give us 1 minute, Michelle. Let me just confirm with the other judges that they're ready to proceed. 1 moment, please.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you, Chief Judge. While we wait, I'd like to thank the Tourism Enhancement Fund, our title sponsor in the Ministry of Tourism, Camco Hotel and Restaurant Supplies, Deja All-Inclusive Resort, ProSite Optical, Tony Ward Auto, Royalton Luxury Resorts, the Jamaica Observer, Intelligent Limited, and Chucker Caribbean.
All right.
We can go
Ready
ahead.
to proceed, Michelle. Yes, we're ready
All
to
right.
proceed.
Can you mute the mics, please, production? All right, Ms. Haynes, Janoya Haynes, third speaker, Belair High, you can continue.
Second speaker stated that whether or not guests are vaccinated, they still need to quarantine. This information is invalid due to the speech presented by my second speaker. Judges, opponents, audience, good morning. I stand to further cement our affirmation of the moot. All-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. My first speaker clearly outlined a better option to quarantining of guests and established that the role of the government is to enact public policies and not pass on the responsibilities to private organizations. My second speaker presented the many protocols and policies that have been set out by the government, which makes quarantining of guests at all-inclusive hotels not necessary. And as third speaker, I will highlight what exists in other countries and show us that all-inclusive hotels are indeed managing the risk of exposure and transmission of the virus without compulsory quarantine. Opposition. The president of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Kingston Reader, told JIS News that since the return of international arrivals some 8 months ago, we are very proud to say that the level of compliance to strict protocols set by the hotels have been exceptional. He continues, many have pointed out that it is likely that tourism businesses in Jamaica are some of the safest places to be due to our commitment to the management of our protocols, he adds. Let us jump over to what exists in other countries to accept tourists and overseas travelers. According to CNN Travel Unlocking the World, in Albania, Brazil, Egypt, and Trinidad and Tobago, testing required, quarantine is not. In Antigua and Barbuda, testing required, quarantine requirements differ based on vaccination status. In Belize and Germany, testing required even for the fully vaccinated, quarantine under some circumstances. Did you know that since last year, the hotels have been on a mass drive to get it right so that the sector could reopen and stay open? An article published on the Jamaica Information Service website entitled Emphasis on COVID-19 protocols in hotels, written by Serena Grant on June 10, 2020, states the Tourism Development Company has embarked on a series of sensitization workshops to highlight COVID-19 protocols tourism sector. The training manager for the TPD Western Region, Ms. Mollison, highlighted various protocols that would be in place at the island's hotels. Some of these protocols include the provision of transportation for employees from central points in the community to work sites and back when feasible, the provision of appropriate personal equipment while conducting cleaning duties. There will also be special emphasis on social distancing throughout hotel properties and thorough and frequent sanitization of the hotel. I believe we get the point. Judges, opponents, countries are away moving forward with the mandatory quarantining of guests. Why then should we demand such a backward step on all-inclusive hotels? The proposition rests.
Thank you, third speaker, Genoa Haynes. May we spotlight Kingston College. Mr. Brown, are you ready?
Government point of inquiry.
Third speaker, Kingston College.
Go ahead. He had an inquiry.
For government member, why are we on the fourth wave? Since you have stated statistics on testing. Why are we still on fourth?
Response from Belair.
Are we to respond?
The Chief Judge will have to advise. Chief Judge?
You are in a position. Are you able to respond? He made a point of inquiry.
Could you repeat, please?
Third government member, you have been stating statistics of testing. Why are we, the Jamaican people, still on a fourth wave?
We're giving statistics, sir, on inclusive hotels, not the general public of Jamaica.
Okay, just to make sure everybody hearing me.
Yes, we are. I'm hearing. Judges, are you okay?
Yes, we're okay.
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Okay. Your life doesn't matter, your life doesn't matter, and your life doesn't matter. That is the essence of this proposition and the team proposition stance. All protocols observed. Before I go any further, I would like us to not lose sight of what the moot is. All-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. I come before you today not only refuse the baker's arguments of the government, but also to reiterate how vital it is that hotels are mandated to quarantine guests. But before I get into that, let me first address some of the loose claims the government has placed before the House in an effort to mislead you. The Prime Minister stated that imposing this mandate will be an inconvenience to the tourists, but this insinuates that we should prioritize leisure over the well-being of the Jamaican society. She also said they will not have to interact with Jamaican people. But what about the hotel workers? Will they not interact with Jamaican people? Our opposition leader has clearly outlined and assessed the colossal impacts the proposition will make not only on the Jamaican people, but the healthcare system. According to an article written in the Jamaican Information Service on August 10, 2021, it was the Minister of Health, Care and Wellness, Dr. Tufton, who pointed out, as it relates to bed occupancy, 8 facilities are at over 84% of their current bed capacity, placing them in the red alert zone. If we are to abandon this mandate, we open our country to the numerous malevolent variants, and this will only pressure our already overburdened healthcare system. As the saying goes, pressure busts pipe, and this motion will certainly lead to the demise of the healthcare system. We can turn our heads to the point made by our deputy opposition leader, where he spoke about how it takes one match to start a fire. It only took one visitor, which up to yesterday, according to the World Health Organization, has led to a whopping 91,249 cases, of which 2,392 persons died. Let me repeat, one unquarantined visitor was the catalyst for the horrific deaths of 2,392 persons. That is 2,392 mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, and or friends. Now let us imagine what the numbers would be if the government did not mandate that all-inclusive hotels quarantine their guests. It would be horrendous. To end, opposition knows that the government has made a valiant effort, but my colleagues and myself have far outmatched and have obliterated their points, and thus their proposition should be rendered null and void. If this motion is to pass, it will only set back the nation in our efforts to quell the weight effects of the coronavirus pandemic and will drastically affect the people of our nation. Before I go, I would just like to leave you with a quote. You can't enjoy wealth if you are not in good health. So let us not prioritize wealth over health. The opposition rests. Thank you.
And thank you, third speaker, Kingston College. So one day, Brown, I hope I pronounced that correctly. All right, we will give our teams some time to prepare their rebuttals. Remember to have the camera face to you. I see Kingston College. All right, let's jump over in our visitor section. All right, we have a few friends. I'm seeing Belair High supporters, Kingston College supporters, welcome. We're also streaming on YouTube.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, Chief Judge, did you say you'll take the rebuttals now?
Yes, we will. Commencing with the opposers.
All right. Kingston College. Are you prepared with your rebuttals?
I'm hearing a horrible feedback.
Other side. Go quickly.
All right, our rebuttal is going to be with our first speaker, Malachi Alwood. Is that Malachi?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, you can go ahead, Mr. Alwood.
Good morning again, panel. Madam Prime Minister expressed there is a problem with 7 days quarantine. We have heard numerous statistics. Madam Speaker, we have heard but no active approaches. This conversation stems from a pernicious problem. Again, let me reiterate the sentiment. Deaf ears, you lie at trouble. Again, let me redefine quarantine by the WHO. Aims to delay the introduction of the disease to a country or area, or may delay the peak of an epidemic in an era where local transmission is ongoing. In an article published by the New Yorker after the arrival of more than 35,000 people, the statistics in which the government asked for, we still haven't seen these numbers being catered to in terms of their allowance to accommodation. Please note, quarantine is different from isolation. Quarantine is not the solution, neither is vaccine. But what we are proposing as the government is to choose accommodation for healthcare workers, for doctors, nurses, as the president of the Nurses Association did incite that there are shortages. Thank you.
All right, Belair, hi. Can we spotlight Belair? Hi, please.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are. Go ahead.
Okay, I will begin. Judges, the proposition stands resolute in affirming the mood. All-inclusive hotels should not be mandated to quarantine guests. The first speaker gave a very generalized statistic, but where is the correlation and the statistics to show how there is a reduction in the number of COVID cases because of the quarantine? The opposition keeps making reference to the first local who transmitted the virus. But was this person booked in an all-inclusive hotel? No, that person went to a funeral. The second speaker said whether or not you are unvaccinated or fully vaccinated, you must be quarantined. But clearly he is misguided because we know that according to ivisa.com, as long as you provide a negative PCR test, you do not need to quarantine. The third speaker shared a quote that we are not prioritizing the health, but wealth. We did say that. I continue. The third speaker shared a quote that we are not prioritizing health, but wealth. We did say that we have a better alternative to quarantine that will promote the health and also providing entertainment to the guests. Gentlemen on the opposition team are not focusing on the mood. You keep referring to things that does not pertains to all-inclusive hotels, and you're focusing more on the locals. What does frontline workers, hospital beds have to do with quarantining hotel? You also mentioned that they can go on to contributing and spreading the virus to other persons in the country. But in the all-inclusive hotel, we did say that it will be a controlled environment. And if they deem to go out in the country, there are resilient corridors for this. In the rebuttal, you just said that quarantine is not the solution. Thank you for agreeing to our point. We say quarantine or mandating quarantine is not the solution, but we are promoting better alternatives that will provide and make the guests feel safe. And in other words, we do have to remember the tourism, as our second speaker said, that we're not looking at the short term. So tourism is the long term, and therefore we have to put in place other protocols that will allow tourists to continue coming to Jamaica. I want us to understand that we are not anti-quarantine. What we are anti is mandatory quarantine to all-inclusive guests. Judges, public policies are put in place by the government to ensure that visitors entering the country are COVID-free. With all these measures in place, and government does With all these measures in place by the government and those in place by all-inclusive hotels, why would we still need to subject guests to mandatory quarantining? We are providing the better alternative that for the long run will enhance tourism. Again, the guests will feel safe, and we are still protecting the country. Thank you. I rest my case.
Thank you. Can we have a round of applause for them, please, ladies and gentlemen, please? What a heated debate. Coaches, you did a fantastic job. Fantastic, fantastic. I am so happy I am not a judge. Right, ladies? Ladies over there, Belair, hi. How are you? Let's get to know our students. Let's get to know our students. I see, I'm gonna start with Belair High because the camera is already on Belair High. They're already being spotlighted. Ladies, just tell us a little bit about what you're studying at school. Let us start with our first speaker.
Okay, good morning again. My name is Shanice Chambers, and I'm currently studying the science subject with business on the side. I do wish to enhance my studies in being a medical surgeon and also an entrepreneur.
Okay, great. I said it yesterday and I'm saying it again. There are a lot of scientists here as debaters. Sarsha Salmon, Sarsha, is that it? Miss
Yes,
Salmon?
that's correct pronunciation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am studying law at school along with digital media because I think that in the way the world is going with the digital media and stuff, I can always incorporate it and make my law better.
Okay. All right. So lawyers online. And third speaker, Ms. Haynes, Janoya Haynes.
Hi, my name is Janoya Haynes. I would want to study the sciences. I am now a second form student here at Belair, and I want to become an orthopedic surgeon in the future.
Okay, okay. All right, so it's two scientists and a lawyer. Yesterday we had two scientists and a lawyer as well. I don't know if it has something to do with the pandemic, if everybody is going into the sciences, but it's good that we still have a balance with law and science. All right, let's jump over to Kingston College. Gentlemen, how are you? You have to approach the podium. Can we hear you from where you are? We wanted to get to know you a little bit better. You can all go up now, man.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning. Excellent, excellent. I think you guys did a wonderful job, wonderful job.
Thank you.
Yes, man, you did. We wanted to just get to know you a little bit better. And our first speaker, Malachi Alwood, what are you doing at school? What are you studying?
Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm studying law and I would love to be a diplomat also because I believe that I am a change this world needs.
All right, speak it into existence. And let's go with Mr. Wellington, Michael Wellington.
All right, at school, I'm studying accounting and economics. My aim is to be an investment banker or a financial analyst.
Okay, and Shawande Brown. Shawande, I hope I have it. Mr. Brown, what are you?
Shawande, so good morning.
Yes.
I'd like to become a medical surgeon. Yes, that's it for me.
Okay, strong voice. All right, yes, cheering you on there. Well, I think both schools were very strong, extremely. And as I've said, I'm happy I'm not a judge. This is a close one, a fiery one. And we ask that you do not move too far because from time to time, we have to have a wildcard section where we have to bring a school back for whatever reason another school is not able to compete. So thank you for showing up this morning. And we will wait on our judges to tally their scores, and we'll invite the chief judge to present the final numbers.
Certainly, it was our pleasure. Certainly our pleasure.
Yes, definitely. And it's nice having you. We'll wait on the cue from the Chief Judge.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome.
Laugh,
You're
smile.
welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Whole a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand, rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up
land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Whole a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome.
Yeah, laugh,
You're
smile.
welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Whole a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Wow, Michelle, we're ready when you are.
Well, I heard the wow. All right, so thumbs up to our two teams this morning. The winning team will move on to join the quarterfinals. Wolmer's girls, Charlemont High, Moulton Vernier High, Wolmer's boys, Jamaica College, Georges College, and Raci's High. I will now invite our Chief Judge, Attorney at Law, Stacey Ann Young, to present the tally of her scores from Clinton Pickering, freelance journalist, and our guest judge, Oral Heaven, first Vice President in the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce. Go ahead, Chief Judge Young.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and thank you, boys and girls from Belair and KC. To say it was a ding-dong battle would be an understatement. That was a very, very exciting match. It was very riveting, and I'm very happy to see the enthusiasm with which you are approaching the debates this year. As I would have already said, when we have these competitions and you participate, it's an extracurricular activity, yes, but these interscholastic activities, they really assist students with developing life skills, and these are really life lessons that help you to develop your skills in terms of leadership, dedication, your work ethics, working together as a team, respecting others, setting your goals. And so we are really, really encouraged by the display this morning. And as Michelle would have said, throughout the competition, we would have seen where you have debates would normally be contested by a lot of art students or students in humanities. This year, most of the students that are here debating these topics are persons who want to be engineers or scientists. So it shows that you are widening your scope by competing in these competitions. So we really, really appreciate you, and we thank you very much. And our appreciation also extends to the coaches who have taken the time to train these young persons in the areas of speech and the debate adjudication. So thank you so much for your effort. And I must say that this year, this particular competition, this particular match was the highest contested one so far. This is the closest that it has been. And the points standing between the winner and loser this afternoon, that separated the winner and the loser this morning, was only 4. So the person who won beat the other team by only 4 marks. And I say this to say that, it is extremely important that when you come to a match like this, you start well and you end well, because you never know what is going to be the deciding factor between who wins and who loses. Now, having said that, I am going to just give you an idea as to how the judges have adjudicated this afternoon. For analysis, definition, and interpretation, the maximum points was 15. For arguments advanced, the maximum points was 20. For accuracy of your arguments, 15. Organization, 10. Reasoning, 15. Style, 10. Voice, 5. Gestures, 5. And stance, 5. So, we were looking at a wide range of styles and presentations and characteristics of your presentation in order to determine how much you got. Now, in respect of the rebuttals, what we concentrated on was your recognition of the arguments made by the previous speakers or the other team. And for arguments made, for recognition of their arguments, there was a maximum of 30 points. For your methodological demolition of arguments, there was you would have been able to get a maximum of 30 points. For your style of delivery, voice, gesture, and stance, 20 for style, 10 for voice, 5 for gestures, and 5 for stance. So we were looking at a composite presentation, and that is why it was so important that we were able to see you and also hear you very clearly. Now, with respect to the individual presenters, we would like to commend both teams because you had excellent presentations. So the feedback I'm going to give now is with respect to the presenters. So what we had, the first speaker from Belair, which is Miss Shanice Chambers. She made a very good presentation. It was a very good opening. My comments and the comments of the judges as well was that she was very clear. She had good vocals. She gave a very good summation and introduction. Her definitions were good and she restated the mood. She spoke about the average trip length being 7 to 40, the average trip length being approximately about 8 days, she said. So she was basically saying if the average length of a visitor is 8 days and you want to quarantine them for 7 to 14 days, it really makes no sense for them to come here. She spoke about the meaning of vacationing in quarantine style. She spoke about the government should not attempt to pass the responsibility to private entities. She outlined the present government procedures, indicating that there are procedures set out on arrival and departure that should be sufficient. She spoke about the hotels being able to regulate their guests adequately, and she spoke about giving them more credit to organize and implement their own procedures. And she gave alternatives, including blocks going to meals at different times, beaches being private, and the fact that in an all-inclusive hotel, the guests don't necessarily mix with other persons. She says that the control is better. Trying to control the guests is better than a mandated quarantine of guests. So she set the stage, she set the tone for the debate, and therefore KC had to have a very strong response, which they did. And so we had Master Allwood coming strong out of the blocks with an extremely good introduction, and his definition was good. He restated the moot again to turn our eyes away from the government. He gave us good statistics, excellent command of his space. He was very, very good with outlining the effectiveness of quarantines. He was not discrediting vaccines. He contrasted very eloquently the difference between quarantine and isolation. He spoke about the large infrastructural inadequacies that we have here, including inadequate resources like hospital overcrowding. And he was interrupted with a point of information, which he did not accept immediately, but he then got back and took it. And then he said sometimes prevention is better than cure. So from the first two speakers, we knew that this was going to be a battle royale because, and I will say too, that in the end, these two persons were contenders for best speaker. So in the end, we had to actually go back, all three judges, and tabulate how much one judge gave to come out with who was the best speaker at the end of the match. Then we had a second speaker from Belair High, Miss Saoirse Salmon, who came out with a very good introduction. But the fact that she was a little disorganized initially, it detracted from her presentation. And you have to remember as well, because we're looking at you, if you appear to be reading too much from the script, it detracts from your presentation. But she gave very good statistics. She was saying, she doesn't have an issue because the government has now relaxed the policies. She outlined the government policies from entry to departure again. And she said, what she was basically saying is that we need to focus more on the fact that the government has done enough to govern persons, so we shouldn't really ask or implement the Backmaster thing of making it mandatory for hotels to quarantine guests. But the suggestion I would make moving forward, Ms. Salmon, is that maybe if you slow down a little, and this was a consensus between the judges, maybe if you were to slow down a little, then we could hear your points a little more clearly, and then you wouldn't appear to be so flustered, because then you would have enough time to compose yourself. Because as I said, we look at your stance and gesture and so on. And then straight out off the mark, we had Master Michael Wellington coming from Kingston College. He was very calm, very good pauses, good tone, good pace, clear points. And he spoke about the fact that the lives of the persons who live in the area would be threatened. He spoke about the purpose of quarantine, equality among the people, and he used local examples of breaches I think he would have indicated our Minister Floyd Green and Beanie Man. He spoke about enabling tourists to bypass the law. He didn't initially take the point of information, but he made room at the end to do so. And we thought it was a very, very good presentation, but this was the issue at this point that the judges had. And I would have said this before with the previous matches. When the speakers, all speakers are judged on their analysis, definition, and interpretation. When you don't define, or when you fail to define, or you assume that because the first speaker has already done a definition, you don't have to come and outline and define the terms, you lose track of what the moot is. And this is where we found, because we were hoping that at this point, Casey would have realized that they missed completely that a very big part of the moot was specific in respect of all-inclusive hotels. So we found the presentation up to this point now lacking, because we're saying, all right, maybe what the first speaker missed, the second speaker would have come on and caught it and realized that their focus was too wide and they did not focus in on the moot. So the judges were saying, okay, let us see what is going to happen. We had a third speaker coming for Belair, and she was very, very good in her introduction. Her tone was good. She had good control of space. She did an excellent summary of what the other speakers would have said. So we didn't lose track of where team government was. She continued. She spoke about the hotels being the safest place. She gave us the testing required, but she's saying, while it is that the testing is required, quarantine is not, because here are other regional examples that are allowing persons to test and not quarantine, but their numbers, their COVID numbers are not going up. And then now she summarized the arguments very clearly. And then she said, if we were to go back to mandatory quarantining, this would be a backward step. So extremely good point to end on. And then we had our third speaker from KC coming with full force, indicating your life doesn't matter, your life doesn't matter, your life doesn't matter, which was, it was very good to bring us in. So in case you were sleeping, you know, the opposers were now trying to pull you in and trying to convince you that, listen, man, your life matters. So he now restated the moot, addressed the argument that his proposers had said before. He then talked about what about the hotel workers. He summarized previous arguments, made reference to variants, and he brought in some statistics about the death toll and don't prioritize wealth over health. But even at this point, we did not see the KC team really focusing on the fact that the subject matter was not necessarily so central, but it was really speaking about all-inclusive. So we wanted them to do a little bit more examination of the operations of all-inclusive hotels in particular. Then we had the rebuttals, and unfortunately, even though we awarded some time, because normally in debates, you don't necessarily have time for rebuttals, we would just normally flow when we're in a controlled environment. But because we understand the limitations that you are facing in the current pandemic, we said, okay, give them some time to put their rebuttals together. But even though we had given additional time, we found that the KC team came back for the rebuttals without a little bit lackluster and a little bit more disappointing than when they first started off, because they started off so strong. We were expecting a much stronger rebuttal. And as I would have indicated at the beginning, there's 100 points for rebuttal, you know, recognitions of arguments made. So you really have to address what the other side has said, methodological demolition of their arguments, your style, voice, and all of that. So the way you approach the podium, it doesn't differ in your initial presentation and at the rebuttal, and we found that you lost form. also, in terms of your presentation, it seemed to us that you were not as prepared and that you were not necessarily looking to deconstruct the arguments, or you were not following through with your deconstruction of the arguments as you should have, and it was made more obvious when the speaker for Belair came back and she completely deconstructed the arguments made by the opposers, put forward the arguments made by the government, and gave us an excellent rebuttal. We found that her rebuttal was very well delivered and deliberated. And even though at the end she lost a little composure, it didn't detract from the fact that she understood the assignment and carried it through. Now, having said that, we had 3 contenders for Best Speaker, and Miss Chambers, who was our first speaker for Belair, and also the rebuttal. Even though she had the best rebuttal, she was also in contention. In addition to having the best rebuttal, she was also in contention for Best Speaker, as well as Masters Allwood and Brown from the Kingston College team. And to show you that it was such a closely contested match, the 2 persons, Miss Chambers and Mr. Allwood, only lost out from Best Speaker because they both tied, but Mr. Brown, so Wandy Brown of Kingston College, is the best speaker with a mark of 251, while the other 2 both tied on 250. So it was a very, 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 very closely contested match. Nevertheless, overall, this is a team sport. And because it is a team sport, it is the composite score, that will determine who the winner and loser is. So this morning we have Belair High with 963 points and Kingston College with 959 points, making Belair High the winner of this match 8. Very good effort, guys. I hope the comments of the judges have been helpful. And because this match was so highly contested, we don't know. Belair will be moving forward to the next round, but from time to time, we will have cause to pick a wild card to proceed if there is some issue moving forward. So do not at this point believe that the competition is completely over. Kingston College, it was very, very, very well contested. And thank you guys very much.
Thank you, judges. I have to agree that I was holding my breath because I too saw the excitement, and congratulations to Belair High, who was also our champions in 2018. Kingston College, I would agree, do not go too far. And a round of applause for all the students this morning. It's our 8th and final match in the preliminary round of the 2021 National Tourism Debate. We would like to thank our judges, Clinton Pickering, and our guest judge, Oral Heaven. All our friends that have Zoomed in with us, that's watching us on YouTube, thank you for making the effort to join us this morning. And also thank you to our production team, Danielle Dehaney, Jamie Drummond, who also acted as timekeeper. And just a reminder that the winner of the 2021 National Tourism Debate will move on to the regional finals in March 2022. I am your host, Michelle Tuller. Thank you so much.